On today's show, me and Kevin are going to have an argument. We might even come to blows. We're going to argue what is the single most important thing the Saints must do to stop being a disaster. Thomas, hit that intro.
Welcome to Saints Happy Hour Podcast. We never trade up.
If there was a path to give up 3 first-round picks to get Jaden Daniels, I would do it. And I would pick Jaden Daniels.
Now grab a drink and enjoy the show.
All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour Podcast. As always, we are brought to you by Hard Hide. All right, I got Kevin with me. I got Thomas running the show back in Poland. All right, so for today's show, we're going to put the coaching search a little bit aside. We're not going to talk about candidates specifically, and the draft is too far away. We're going to go big picture, like CEO, like strategy. We're going to go 20,000 feet view of the Saints. And me and Kevin are going to argue what is the single most important thing the Saints need to do. Is it, for example, you got to find a quarterback? Is it you got to hire the right coach? Is it you got to build your offensive line? Specific things that we think are the most important thing specific to the Saints that they've got to do this. If they don't do this, they're screwed. I'm going to say what my thing, then Kevin's going to say his, and then I'm going to argue my point. So Kevin, the most important thing the Saints need to do in 2025 is hire the right coach. What in your mind is the number one thing they need to start to do to be successful?
They need to nail the draft. They need to nail this. I mean, in the immediate future, they need to nail this draft. In the long term, they need to nail this draft and 2026's draft. So I need 2 consecutive drafts that they nail.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say this. I get what you're saying with the draft, and I think the draft is important. And you look at the Saints, and yeah, they hired Trump, and yeah, they had the 2006 draft and the 2017 draft, and they got previous. But I just believe, and maybe it's unicorns and this sort of thing, but I just believe if they can get the right coach, that will fall into place. I'm hopeful. And I just believe, like, for the Saints, they have a structure where I know everybody blames Mickey Loomis, and I'm not absolving Mickey Loomis of all decisions. I'm not. He's struggled. They made a lot of wrong choices with personnel, letting Trey Hendrickson leave, letting Zach Baun leave, who are both first team All-Pro. The drafts have been meh to terrible. But I just believe the way the Saints set up their power structure, Kevin, the coach has so much sway, and Mickey Loomis defers to the coach so much that they've got to get the right coach. And even a coach that's like a step up from DA isn't good enough. They've got to get the Saints the way they want to run their team. They have to have a borderline elite coach with a huge personality that can run the building, that can set the culture. Because Mickey Loomis ideally wants to hire a coach and slide into the background. That's what he wants to do. So I just feel like coach is the most important hire, the most important thing that they need to do. What would your argument against that be?
I mean, how many times? So I guess my question would be, every time that the Saints have traded up or traded away picks, was that all Sean Payton? Was that all?
That's a great question.
Putting his hands back and saying, "Hey, Payton wants to do it. I'm fine with it. Whatever."
That's a great question.
I mean, Mickey clearly had to go along with it.
That's great. That's a great question. Yeah.
Mickey at some point could have put his foot down and said, "Hang on a minute, brother. We're not trading up here. I don't think this is you got to convince me more that trading up for this guy or trading up and grabbing this person in this round is actually worth doing. And
That's fair.
We
That's
don't
fair.
have enough. I don't know how much is out there of how much deferment did Mickey grant Peyton in those years when
it was
we
a
were trading
ton.
up.
It was a ton. It was a ton. And I'll give you a clear example.
Okay.
2017,
Yeah.
Sean Payton worked out Kamara personally and was like, "Get me freaking Kamara." And apparently, like, Sean Payton was losing his mind in the 2017 draft. They were going to take Kamara in the second round. And they're like, no, take the safety. We'll take Marcus Williams and we'll get, and so they traded a future second to move into the third in 2017 to get Kamara. Everybody made fun of it, but it was at the time, but it was a home run. So that's the influence that I have. And I just worry. Here's the reason why the Dennis Allen experience makes me even more reticent to pick a borderline elite coach, because Loomis deferred to DA. Like, DA was like, I need a new offensive coordinator. Okay, get rid of Pete. I need my quarterback. Okay, go get Derek Carr. Like, everything he gave Dennis Allen almost everything he wanted, right? And so if you're going to defer to Dennis Allen, you got to have magnitudes better of a coach. So that's my argument. But your argument is more interesting, and you came prepared with graphics and such for your argument about the draft. And this one is this thing that we had Thomas do side by side for the draft. Kevin, it's the thing of nightmares, but especially for you, this might be a horror film.
Okay, so this is the number of draft picks since 2000.
Each team.
Yeah, each team, all 32 teams. So you've got the Packers. So on the left side of the graph, you've got total number of picks. That's the, I don't know which axis is which, but on the vertical axis is the total number of draft picks. The horizontal axis is each team. You'll notice on the right side, the very end of that graph is the Saints. And it is a steep drop-off from the Texans, from I would even say the Chargers.
Market crash.
Yeah, it's literally Black Monday or whatever the market crash thing is called.
Black Friday.
Black Friday, yeah, that too. It's basically the Black Diamond Slope on the mountain, and it's an absolute disaster. You look at the number. You look at the actual, just the straight numbers, homie, right there on the right side of the graph. Packers 233. You keep going down. Okay, you get to the middle of the pack. You got the Broncos and the Raiders, 200 and 199. You keep going. We're moving. You get the Chargers and the Texans, 183, 182 respectively. Then the Jets, 178. Man, that looks shitty. Hold my beer, says the New Orleans Saints, 160 draft picks over a quarter century of drafts.
And here's the thing. The Saints, they're last by 10%. Like, number 31 has drafted 10% more players than the Saints. And here's the difference, Kevin. Saints averaged 6.7 draft picks over this period. Green Bay, 9.7. That's 3 more players a year. That's 3 more players. Even if Green Bay, if they're 5th, 6th, whatever round pick, even if Green Bay only hits on one of those extra 3 picks every 2 years, that's still 6 more starters than the Saints over that period. Like, this trend is hilariously bad. I did not realize it was this bad. Did you?
No.
I mean,
Absolutely not. So the Packers have been to the playoffs 17 times since 2000. The Saints, I'm counting, so since 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They've been to the playoffs 10 times since 2000, and then they haven't been to the playoffs in the last 4 seasons. So 7 extra trips to the postseason. And, I'm sure there's people that'll come out and say, yeah, well, they only won the same number of Super Bowls. I tell you what, man, it's a hell of a whole lot more fun rooting for a team that goes to the playoffs.
Would you say, because I know at the beginning of the show you said your number one thing the Saints have to do is they have to nail the next 2 drafts.
Yeah.
Would you say that's more important, or would you go to a higher level and say they have to stop their trade up bullshit or it's never going to get better?
Okay. When I say they have to nail the next 2 drafts, that means stop with the trade up bullshit. Stop. Just stop. No more trade ups for the next 2 years. At minimum, for the next at minimum top 4 rounds. I would say none. Period. You have to basically come to me with some sort of ironclad Moneyball-esque type thing that would convince me that, okay, it's worth taking this guy in the 4th round, and we're giving up a 5th next year and all that. I would need charts, graphs, formulas, the whole bit, in order to convince me to do that.
I would say
the Saints have 9 picks this coming draft, 4 in the top 100. I would like to see them get to 5 in the top 100 and possibly get to 11 picks total. They have 7 listed for 2026. I would like to see them get to 9 in 2026. Because I have said this for many years now. The more bullets you have in the gun to fire, the greater chance you have of hitting something.
And here's the thing where you make that is unquestionably true, because look at Green Bay's success. The thing that I will say is I believed in 2019 and 2020, I was fine with the Saints trading up because I looked at the roster and I said, listen, we're trying to win a Super Bowl. We don't have spots for a giant draft class. So trading up, whether you think it's good strategy or bad strategy, depending on the draft, it was defensible, and you're trying to add 1-2 more pieces to keep winning, to get Drew a ring. I was okay with it. Now, this roster's garbage. And the thing is, it's garbage, and you don't have any cap space, Kevin. There's only one path to improve this team. It's the draft. So,
yeah, there you go. You made another point for me. If Ram, we were talking about this in text messages. Okay, if Ramczyk retires, the Saints could potentially clear $15 million off the books. Well, they're so far under the cap, and Mickey's made this work before. It's but we're getting a sizable chunk of money off the thing. Okay, so then, is Cam Jordan going to retire? Is somebody going to rework a deal? Are we going to wait? Are we going to move on from Derek Carr? Or are we going to figure out a way to do something else where we just sit with him for a year and then get rid of him? That way the cap hit is less impactful. But overall, when we need so many bodies to fill the number of holes, it's over your right shoulder. What are positions of need? Yes.
That's correct.
Yes. We have positions of need all across the offense and the defense. You need to quote Animal House, we need the guys. We need the guys.
Well, and
So
here's the thing.
The only way you're going to get the guys on the cheap is in the draft. And the only way you're going to get a number of those guys who could potentially start and fit in the roster and fit in the lineup is by taking that 9th pick, trading down, and getting guys who can come in and be starters or compete for the starting job from day one. And that way, even if they're not the starter, they're going to make the team.
And here's the point that Ben Solak made, the ESPN podcaster, writer. He made a point about the Saints. He said, with their cap issues, he said, the biggest issue now is when your roster starts to deteriorate and you don't have cap space, you can't plug your holes with middle class guys. Like the Saints, they got one middle class guy. They went and got Chase Young, right? He had the trick neck, everything. That was it. That was it. That was the only guy. The other guys they had to try to plug holes with, Lucas Patrick, Willie Gay, who was like $5 million, but it was like incentive laden, right? So when you have no cap space, you can't go out and be like, hey, we're going to go out and get a guard that's an average level guard for 2 years, $17 million, because we ain't got no space. So it limits what you can do to plug these holes. And the Saints, like you said, they got a hole like the Titanic. It's maybe like not as big as like hitting one iceberg, but it's like 10 different holes. So they've got to fill these holes. I still think though, if you gave me a choice of Mickey Loomis can stop the trade up nonsense, or you can give me like a perceived or probably elite coach. Like if you told me they can hire Mike Vrabel or Aaron Glenn, and either one of them is going to be an incredibly elite level coach, I would still take it over the trade up nonsense, because I would just hope that the good coach could overcome the trade up nonsense. I don't know if you hire let's say they hired a Jim Haslett level coach, but they start nailing these drafts. What would you rather have, Kevin?
I don't know if I would call Jim I mean, like, I'm arguing the semantics of it, I guess, but I don't know if I would call Jim Haslett a mid-level coach. But okay, whatever whoever you think of, and I'm telling this to the audience, whoever you think of or whoever I think of as a mid-level coach, if they hired them and they somehow what was it? Nailed the draft?
Cooked the draft. I mean, like you're talking 2 drafts and going into 2027, we're like, oh my God, this team is now freaking, we got 9 new starters. This roster, it's not completely fixed, but God, it's on the road to being really, really good. But you got Jim Haslett coaching.
Oh, I thought you said Jim Harbaugh.
No, Jim Haslett, not Jim.
Sorry. Look, I heard Jim and then H sound. Yeah. My mind, look, I haven't thought of Jim Haslett.
He came.
Jim Haslett's been out of my brain for a long time. Yeah. Sorry. Like, it's a data dump with me.
I'm trying to think of like a mid coach now that you would be like, he's mid, that's the name of Jim Haslett. Like, went to the playoffs and then just churns out a bunch of 500 seasons.
Well, I mean, shoot, if you want to go, I mean, you'd have to go more recent and look at, why can't I think of his name now? Mustache.
Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
So you'd need like a more modern equivalent of Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
Like a guy who's going to go 8-9 or 9-8 over and over and over. So if they hired a guy like that and then had 2 good years in a row of like great drafts where they've turned over a big chunk of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would take that.
You would prefer that to the elite coach and the same draft philosophy they have.
Okay, so you're telling me if the options are elite coach, mediocre to poor drafts, or average coach, good to great drafts, or
right.
great drafts,
That's right.
I'm going to take that option.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, listen, at the end of the day, the coaches can scheme and plan all they want. They ain't the ones putting the pads on.
That's
They're not
true.
the ones putting the pads on.
Is part of your calculus in that too of if I just draft for 2 or 3 years, in 2 or 3 years, if I got to fire this asshole, the job will be appealing? Is that part of the calculus too? Whereas my theory, I am betting entirely on the coach. Like I have no off ramp. The coach has got to be amazing.
Keep making the team good.
Yeah,
It's the same. Again, I try to be consistent. That's a thing for me. Is I try to be consistent.
Right. Yeah.
When the argument is we need to jettison Derek Carr into the sun, he's the guy. He was the guy on the grassy knoll. He caused the 2008 stock market crash. He's done all the everybody wants to throw him into the hay because he's a war criminal or something like that. Great, whatever. But make team around the quarterback better. So if you have to jettison, or when you jettison, the rest of the team still looks good or still has talent.
Yeah.
So whoever you bring in, whether there's somebody who is mid-level, like a Sam Darnold, or somebody like that, then they can have results.
Because
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how Sam Darnold played like shit in almost every other place he went? Yet he comes to an organization that has talented players around him and has good coaching.
Yeah, elite coaching.
And suddenly Sam Darnold looks good. Isn't that strange?
That is. I would say this.
I am convinced that if Derek Carr got cut this year and went to an organization that had a solid team around him and good coaching, that he would be even better than he played right now.
He'd be Sam Darnold in Minnesota.
He would put up good numbers.
Yeah.
He would put up good to great numbers, in fact.
And they'd be like, he'd be putting up good to great numbers, and they'd have the rich person problem of, what do we do with this jerk off? In every big game, he falters. But you know what?
Right.
I'd really like Minnesota's problem of, Sam Darnold stunk in a game that could have got us home field advantage, and he stunk in a playoff game. What do we do with him? Do we keep him, or do we go with the rookie that we drafted last year? I'll say this.
Yeah, who I saw on the sideline, and that guy looks like he's got your legs.
He does. He looks like he's 12. I'll say this, wrapping up. My preferred, the team that I hate, the Vikings. I hate them. But the way they have done their rebuild is the way that I prefer. They didn't tank. They didn't try to, they always prioritize winning. But as they did it, they traded down. Now they traded back up to get the quarterback, but they didn't pay a ton, right? This past year. So I just like the way they've done it. They said, we're going to build everything around it, and when we're ready, we'll drop in the quarterback. And I just prefer that way to, let's just suck for a while and hope in 2-3 years maybe we get lucky and we get a good quarterback or whatever. I just like Minnesota's plan better.
So you mean we shouldn't throw the 2025 season to try and get Archie Manning's kid?
Well, you don't even
2026 or whatever the hell that. We shouldn't tank for that guy, or we shouldn't just dynamite everything. We shouldn't fire every single employee with the organization and lock Gale and put Gale underneath that glass, the glass case that they do with museums. We shouldn't put her on a little velvet pillow and put the little glass case over so she can't even make decisions. We should just it should all just be done by magic, Ralph. It should all be magic. Once we fire Mickey, we'll be fine. Once we get rid of Derek Carr, we'll be fine. Once we sequester Gale, like we're choosing a new pope, we'll be fine. It'll all be fine. Once we lose enough, magically we'll be fine.
That's right.
You're telling me that is not an optimal strategy? Because, Ralph, I have been told, I have seen on social media that you have to get rid of everything. You have to dynamite everything in order to make something better. You're telling me that's not the case?
I'm telling you that's not the case. Shocking.
Well, I for one am stunned. I for one am shocked and stunned by this. This is huge if true.
I'll say this in the final thing before we get out of here.
Yeah.
I truly believe that you can either agree with me or you can agree with me that the coach is more important, or you can agree with Kevin that drafting, stop trading up, nailing the draft process, and you can believe that is number one. That is the most important. But I will die on the hill that anything else that you try to say is the most important is not. You have to pick one of these two things, whether you pick the salary cap or you pick even, say, the quarterback or the offensive line. None of them are as important as one of these two things. I kind of think, I hate to say it, but I feel like Kevin defeated me in this argument because he brought charts and graphs and I didn't.
I don't think there's a win. Listen, I'm not like some goofball on television where I have to win the argument. I have to. This isn't even an argument. This wasn't even an argument. I know I'm yelling or talking loud like it's an argument, but this isn't an argument.
Yeah.
This was me and you offering like different ideas or methodologies here. And at the end of the day, we both agree that one of these ideas is one and the other idea is two.
I feel like you
and anything else is a distant third. Because if you want to talk, we got to change the quarterback or we got to fix the okay, well, you want to fix the O-line? Okay, well, then you have to either go the coaching route and say that this guy can coach him up and scheme in a different way, and maybe he has different ways of yada, 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 or you go to the draft route. Sorry, I should go this way because that's toward me on this thing. You go the draft route and you say, all right, we're bringing in bodies. We need to get at least one guard that can start. We need a tackle who's going to put the fear of God in Penning. We need to get a center who's going to put the fear of God in Eric McCoy and possibly replace him. You may need to get a second guard, but we need to get a tight, So you go to the draft and you got to say, we got to look for new players to replace all these guys over the next 2 years. All these guys that have to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
then you do it like that. But it's one this way, or what's the expression? 6 one way, half dozen the other. It's that kind of thing. There's no argument to be had.
Here's the reason why I think you defeated me. You brought charts and graphs, which was one thing. But here's the thing, though. When you look at that chart, the Saints, I don't think you can function long. Like the Saints made that work where they picked 10% less draft picks than any other team in the NFL over a 25-year period. It worked because the three pillars of your team, right, are elite quarterback, elite coach, and draft, right? The Saints had two rock solid pillars on that, right? They had Sean Payton and they had Drew Brees. So they could overcome this weird, aggressive drafting style where it went dry for a while and then Mickey Loomis got really hot at the craps table in 2017. I just don't believe like to be that far on the right of that chart. I just don't think that is a formula of success. The Saints, I'm not saying you got to be Green Bay and be all the way on the left, but you got to be more towards the middle. Like you can't be all the way to the right.
Listen, I'm looking at the Saints here. So since 2000, again, 10 trips to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They had And all the other trips to the playoffs came with Drew Brees as the starting quarterback. So they went to the playoffs in 2000, then had a 5-year gap. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Of the next 15 seasons, they went to the postseason 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They went 9 for 15 going to the postseason.
And
that's an incredible ratio.
And here's the thing.
Incredible ratio.
Here's the thing. In the NFL, 4 years with no playoffs is a freaking eternity. The Saints are moving up the list. The only teams that have been out of the playoffs longer than the Saints, I believe, are the Jets, who are a raging dumpster fire, Atlanta, who is a smoldering dumpster fire, and then it's like the Saints, and the Saints, the Bears, and a couple other teams. Like, you miss the playoffs for 5 years in the NFL, you're a disaster. Like, the NFL is built to get everybody in the playoffs every couple of years just by stumbling in.
So I've got it here. Longest playoff droughts. The Saints are tied for third place.
That's right.
At 4 seasons with the Bears and the Colts. Above them are the Falcons, like you said. They're tied for second with 7 with the Panthers.
Oh, I forgot about the Panthers.
In first place, the New York Jets.
Yeah.
14 seasons they've gone without a playoff appearance. The last time they were in the playoffs, it was the 2010 AFC Championship game where they briefly put the fear of God into Peyton Manning and the Colts.
Wow. That's the last time they were in the playoffs, the Saints won the Super Bowl. That's insane.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this sort of discussion / debate that me and Kevin had. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. It helps us, doesn't cost you anything. And if you liked what you saw, go to patreon.com/Saints Happy Hour. Check us out. Join for free. I know you're going to love us. You get all our content, which we churn out a ton in the off season. You should join us, support us. We have a great community. You get access to our Discord, the whole shebang. Thanks to Kevin. Thanks to Thomas running the show back in Poland. Guys, until next time, the bar is closed.